The Strait of Hormuz, Abu Musa Island. 4 a.m. darkness, silence. An 8-man team of United States Marines on a single covert mission. Their objective to gather intelligence on Iranian military positions. Then suddenly, the shadows come alive. Iranian Revolutionary Guard boats. 12 of them heavily armed swarming the island. Their orders were simple: capture the American Marines, dead or alive. Tehran's calculation was simple. 8 Marines trapped on a hostile island, outnumbered, nowhere to run. But they had made a fatal mistake. First, they didn't know who they were hunting. These were not ordinary Marines. They were Force Recon, an elite special operations force. Second, they didn't know what was just over the horizon. The USS Bataan, an amphibious assault ship carrying 2,000 Marines ready for a fight. It was just 30 miles away. And third, America does not abandon its Marines. What unfolded over the next 43 minutes would become the most intense Marine rescue operation since Benghazi. This is that story. Abu Musa Island, a tiny speck of land in the critical Strait of Hormuz. Barely 2 square miles, but strategically vital. It is controlled by Iran, claimed by Iran, and heavily militarized by Iran. The island sits directly in the middle of the world's most critical shipping lanes. 20% of global oil passes within miles of its shores. For months, U.S. intelligence had tracked the Iranian military buildup, new missile batteries, advanced radar systems, and a fleet of fast attack craft. Iran was turning Abu Musa into a fortress, a weapon designed to choke off global commerce. So at midnight on December 8th, the order was given. 8 Force Reconnaissance Marines would go ashore. The mission: a clandestine insertion onto the island. Photograph Iranian positions, gather vital intelligence, and get out before dawn. A silent insertion. No combat was expected. In and out in 4 hours. They landed at 12 a.m., under strict radio silence, equipped with night vision. They moved like ghosts through enemy territory. By 3 a.m., their primary objective was complete. They had photographed everything. Every coordinate was marked, every position confirmed. Missile sites logged. Extraction was scheduled for 0400. The mission was simple: a quiet helicopter pickup. But at 0400 hours, everything went sideways. They were compromised. An Iranian patrol had spotted them. 12 Revolutionary Guard speedboats, erupting from the island's harbor, closing fast. On the beach, the Marine Recon team was waiting for their ride. They were exposed, in the open. A fatal mistake. The call went out, multiple hostiles inbound. 12 bogies on the water, requesting immediate air support. The response came in seconds. But it wasn't from the USS Bataan, it was from someone else. A new voice cut through the static. "Devil dogs, this is Viper Flight, 2 F-35s. 30 seconds out. Get down and stay down." Then suddenly, 2 F-35 Lightning stealth fighters tore through the dark. They screamed over Abu Musa Island. 500 knots, flying low, aggressive. The Iranian boats broke formation, scattering in panic. On their radios, guard commanders shouted frantic contradictory orders. It was chaos. But the American jets didn't fire a single shot. They didn't need to. Their presence alone had paralyzed the enemy. Iranian vessels, this is United States Marine Corps aircraft. You are within our weapons engagement range. We recommend you reverse course immediately. The enemy boats slowed. They turned. But they didn't retreat, because they knew something the pilots didn't. This was a trap. Reinforcements were coming. From hidden coves, 3 more Iranian boats launched. Then 6 more, then another 12. Within minutes, 33 hostile boats were on the water. This wasn't a patrol anymore. They had surrounded the island. This was an assault force. The order had come down from Tehran: capture the Marines. But America was already moving. 28 miles away, the USS Bataan was coming alive. The warship went to general quarters, full combat alert. 2,000 Marines, 50 helicopters, 20 amphibious assault vehicles. The entire force was now steaming full speed towards Abu Musa Island. In the pre-dawn darkness, 4 AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters lifted off, spooling up from the Bataan's flight deck. They were armed for war with Hellfire missiles, Hydra rockets, and 20mm cannons. Right behind them, 2 MV-22 Osprey tilt-rotors prepared to launch, carrying 40 Marines ready for a hot extraction. At 4 a.m., the first Vipers arrived over Abu Musa. On the beach, 8 Marines watched the sky. 4 American attack helicopters. They were positioning themselves. A wall of steel between the Marines and the Iranian boats. Viper flight to Devil Dogs. We've got you covered. Extraction is inbound. 2 minutes, but the Iranians were not backing down. It was 4 a.m. An Iranian commander made a fatal mistake. He ordered his vessels to beach on the island. His Revolutionary Guards poured into the shallow water, rifles raised, moving toward the Americans. 60 Iranian troops now on foot. They were advancing just 300 meters away. Then Captain Webb's radio crackled to life. Devil Dogs, you are cleared hot. Defend yourselves. The 8 Recon Marines took their positions, rifles aimed, waiting. The distance closed, 200 meters. 150 meters, then 100. The Iranian commander screamed in English, "Surrender!" "Last warning," Captain Webb's reply went out, broadcast on an open frequency for all to hear. The Iranian boats, the American helicopters, the entire battle space, everyone heard the response. "Marines don't surrender. Come and get us." For 5 seconds, absolute silence. The Iranian troops frozen. The American Marines ready. Then a new sound, the thundering of rotor blades. Massive, overwhelming. 2 MV-22 Ospreys descended onto the beach ramps down. 40 heavily armed Marines poured out. A perimeter was established in seconds. The 8 Recon Marines sprinted for the aircraft, covered by their brothers in arms. The Iranian troops could only watch, rifles raised, but they did not fire, because 4 AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters were now circling overhead, their missiles locked on, waiting for a single hostile act at 4 a.m. Both Ospreys lifted off, all Marines extracted. Mission complete. The entire rescue took just 13 minutes from first contact to wheels up. 0 casualties, 0 shots fired. But the message was a declaration of power. Within hours, Iran claimed a stunning victory. State media announced the Revolutionary Guards had successfully expelled American infiltrators from sovereign Iranian territory. They broadcast footage of their speedboats, their troops claiming they drove the Marines away. But the world was about to see a very different story. The Pentagon released its own video captured by F-35s. It showed Iranian boats not attacking, but scattering. It showed the rescue the moment U.S. Marines were extracted, pulled out from under the very noses of 60 Iranian troops who could do nothing but watch. For Iran, the global media reaction was brutal. Iran fails to capture 8 U.S. Marines. Tehran's forces outmaneuvered despite overwhelming numbers. Headlines read, "Marines extracted," while Iranian forces watched helplessly. It was a profound humiliation. 60 troops versus 8 Marines. The Marines had won, but the real damage was strategic. For years, Iran had claimed absolute control of the Strait of Hormuz. They threatened to close it and harassed commercial shipping. They seized oil tankers at will. Abu Musa Island was their fortress, a symbol of dominance. It was Iranian-controlled territory, heavily militarized and supposedly impenetrable. And the United States had just inserted a Marine recon team, conducted its mission, and pulled them out, all while Iranian forces stood by. The message to Tehran was unmistakable. Your island isn't secure, your strait isn't closed, and your military cannot stop us. Within days, the implications rippled across the region. The UAE announced new joint military exercises with U.S. Marines, specifically planning amphibious operations and practicing island assault tactics. Even Qatar, normally cautious about provoking Iran, deepened its military cooperation with U.S. Central Command. Iran's neighbors saw exactly what happened. If America could extract 8 of its Marines when they were surrounded by 60 enemy troops, then Iran's military was not the power Tehran pretended it was. But the most significant response of all came from inside Iran itself. Intelligence reports painted a chaotic picture. Inside Revolutionary Guard command voices were raised. Junior officers demanded answers. Why didn't we capture them? We outnumbered them 8-1. But the senior commanders knew the terrifying truth. 4 American attack helicopters and 2 F-35s would have wiped us from the sea. This is the reality Iran refuses to admit. They could have attacked. They could have taken those Marines. But the cost would have been catastrophic. 33 boats turned to wreckage. 60 troops killed. And for what? For 8 Marines who would have been rescued anyway, by the 2,000 more storming the horizon behind them. Iran blinked, and that is why Abu Musa Island matters. Because it exposes the fundamental flaw in Iran's entire military strategy. For decades, Tehran has relied on asymmetric warfare. Fast boats, swarming tactics, harassment, seizures. It works against commercial shipping. Tankers are soft targets. They can't fight back. Their crews surrender, choosing life over a pointless death. But against United States military forces, it is suicide. Those 8 Marines weren't helpless sailors on a tanker. They were force recon, elite warriors, every single one worth 10 regular infantry. And they were not alone. They are never alone. The F-35s that arrived in 30 seconds, they were already watching the mission the entire time, invisible, silent, waiting. The attack helicopters, on standby alert, engines hot, pilots strapped in, ready to launch. The Ospreys with 40 more Marines were already prepositioned. They had rehearsed trained for this exact scenario. This is the true enemy Iran faces every time they confront American forces. It's not just the troops they can see. It's the invisible network of power behind them. Satellites, drones, aircraft, warships, more Marines. An entire military machine that responds in minutes. A solemn promise to protect every American service member. It's a promise Iran cannot make. Their Revolutionary Guards operate in silos. There is no integrated command, no rapid response. Those 60 troops on Abu Musa learned this the hard way. They could only watch as 8 U.S. Marines vanished into the night. Why? Because they had no air support, no backup, and no plan. This fatal weakness explains Iran's entire strategy in the Gulf. It's why they harass vulnerable commercial vessels, but turn and run the moment a U.S. Navy destroyer appears on the horizon. In a direct fight, they know they cannot win, so they avoid one. But Abu Musa proved something far more important. It proved America can strike anywhere, anytime, even deep inside territory Iran believed was safe. If a small Marine team can insert onto Abu Musa, gather intelligence, and extract from under their noses, what else are America's special forces capable of? Could they neutralize Iran's nuclear program, destroy key missile facilities, or rescue hostages from the heart of Tehran? These are the questions that now haunt Iran's high command. This is psychological warfare executed to perfection. Iran wanted to project strength in the Strait of Hormuz. Instead, they broadcast their own crippling weakness to the world, a message more damaging than any battlefield defeat. 4 a.m. Abu Musa Island, 8 U.S. Marines surrounded by 60 Iranian soldiers. Just 13 minutes later, 8 Marines extracted, 0 American casualties. Not a single shot fired, mission complete. Today, those same Marines continue their mission in the Middle East. Captain Marcus Webb was awarded the Bronze Star for his extraordinary leadership under pressure. As for the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, they still occupy Abu Musa Island. They still fortify it. They still threaten shipping. But on that morning, they learned a vital lesson. That surrounding United States Marines is not the same as capturing them. And outnumbering them will never mean defeating them. Because a Marine never fights alone. He fights with F-35 screaming overhead, with attack helicopters waiting on call, and with 2,000 brothers in arms just 30 miles away ready to answer. They would storm the very gates of hell to bring their brothers home. This is the Strait of Hormuz, a volatile choke point. This is Abu Musa Island. And this is the story of what happens when you try to capture a United States Marine. The odds, 60 Iranian troops against just 8 American Marines. The result, 13 minutes of absolute humiliation. Iran would claim victory. The world saw a crushing defeat. It was a brutal lesson in a simple truth. Numbers mean nothing when you face the United States Marine Corps. Semper Fi, always faithful, always rescued, never left behind.